Hello everyone and welcome back. We're here for the 2023 Samui Swine Classic 10 presented by Prodigy Discs. We're on the island of Samui. This man is back. Just a quick trip for him. Philo has come to Thailand just for this event. Of course, we've got a couple of others joining the card, including Pachette, who has a very, very young career in disc golf, and excited to see what he can do throughout this entire weekend as he's here on the feature card. And no, that's not just a graphic for show. That is absolutely going on here. Round number one. And now here on the back half, we're playing the exact same course that we just saw, the 11 holes, but we're playing it again straight through. Nothing changes. No tees, no pins, nothing of that nature. However, one thing I am doing during this round is I'm getting more of the catch cam position. There's a number of shots that I feel like look really good coming from that side as well. So I decided to get a number of holes from the catch position. I'm just saying, if there's an ace, there may or may not be, but if there is, I'll be right there for it. And another metal hit for Tommy. We saw him, as he said, all over the basket during the front half. I'll also put out a disclaimer right now. Throughout a number of these videos, I will likely refer to it as the back nine or the front nine, even though it's 11 holes. If you want to get fired up in the comments, go for it. But it it feels a little out of sorts to say the back 11 and the front 11, even though that's exactly what it is. I'm going to make that mistake. Philo's going to put it in for birdie, though. He moves to 6 under. Stokely's already at 6, but with this goes to 7. And if you think we're having a good time out there, I'll say sure. I mean, we're on an island of Thailand and playing disc golf, or in my case, filming disc golf, at an incredible facility owned by Nigel and Sam and the rest of the family, so can't really complain too much. Philo, forehand. And I mentioned that tree stump actually earlier. That is a really good reference point. If you're at or near that tree stump, you're probably going to have a look for birdie. That catches a tree for Stokely as he's trying to go with the overhand. We saw him go to the overhand on, 5 or 6 of the tee shots during the first 11, sorry. Talked to Tommy, and he said that he is not sponsored by any disc manufacturer. Says it's very competitive there in Finland in terms of becoming sponsored. He's rated in the high 990s. Pachette rated 980 with just 4 events under his belt, and only been a PDGA member since 2022. And speaking of sponsors, I'll just say it now. There is a basket wrap sponsor on every basket on this course. And thank you to each and every one of you. They are truly what helps make this event go on. And Philo with the straddle. Philo at this point has to be on at least a 4 or 5 hole birdie streak. And unfortunately, that's going to happen from time to time out here with these baskets. Sometimes the chains just are a little bit lighter. Obviously, it does not help that it's been raining. And somehow that one stays in for Scott. You see the look on his face. He, he knows he got away with one, especially after seeing what just happened to Pichette. And Pichette picked up a hat at the turn once we got back to the Tournament Central. Hats and towels that I had brought along were apparently a very hot commodity. So whether you really wanted to support me or you just really needed a hat or a towel, I appreciate everyone that picked one up. Philo to the island green of 3, all but parked. Just 194 feet. Scott going with the forehand just like he did previously, and that's going to cut roll but stay on the island. So he's going to have a look with the OB just beyond the basket as he's going to be putting toward it. Circle's edge for Tommy as he skips just past where the drop zone coconuts are. Which, I'll admit, is not a phrase you get to use often in disc golf. Say, oh yeah, it's right over there by the coconuts. More metal, but this time short. Goose certainly in play over there. But the birdie for Stokely.
I was afraid of the goose. Thought the goose was gonna attack me.
You don't want to get goosed in Thailand. I'll tell you that. Philo short after getting onto the island, doesn't connect, and his birdie streak will come to an end. And he's going to be one back of Stokely. If you've ever thought about coming to Samui to play disc golf, I don't know what in the world you're thinking about at this point. As if this, I know the rain doesn't look appealing, but just in general, you need to get here to play golf. We're here on hole number 15, otherwise known as hole 4. I talk about this being the bonus birdie on the course. If somebody said they shot a 10 under, you would immediately assume this is the hole that they missed. If they shot 10 out of 11 under, you would assume this is it. It's gettable, certainly, but very difficult. Philo pulls it to the right. The righty forehand is truly the best shot. Just because you need to flex a little. Okay, you don't want to hit first tree. That probably slipped out of his hand. You need it to flex a little bit on an Anheuser line and then have it ultimately hook up late if you're trying to pierce all the way through the gap here on hole number 15. Off in the distance there, that's where you saw some of the open holes from the previous years. You know, just a little spectator, helper, mother. Just checking things out. As you can see, front row seats here. That's hole number 10 off to the right. As I said, these two holes, they're not quite fully parallel. They actually end in at similar positions, directly across from one another. And no one with a clean second shot. So everyone's going to have long look at best to save their par. That's going to be a bogey on the scorecard, likely for Tommy. And Scott, due to the low ceiling there, doesn't even get it above the basket. Really just pitching up and conceding that he's going to be taking a par, or a correction, a bogey. Philo with a look at saving par. See him rubbing his elbow. Something not feeling right there for Philo. And hole 15 not feeling right for any of these guys. We're looking at 4 potential bogeys. Philo letting Scott know that pace of play is perfectly fine with him and that he could get up there and have tapped out if he wished. He didn't have to confirm or wait on anyone. That's the look I'd be making after a bogey too.
I started playing disc golf with my family when I was 8 years old. When I was 16, I got my first job as a cook at a bowling alley, and that's when I made my first batch of beef jerky. As I got better at throwing, I also got better at making beef jerky. Everyone told me they loved my jerky. After 15 years of making my beef jerky as a hobby, I decided to make it available to everyone. Double G Craft Jerky. Give it a try. You're gonna love it.
And a big thanks to my friends over at Double G Jerky. I am missing my hot boom sauce. I'm, of course, finding some other delicacies here in Thailand, but the hot boom sauce jerky is always a favorite of mine. And it's available on my website, shop.thediscgolfguy.com. Stokely putting it on its back and letting it, the ground play, drag it over to the right side. That's a felon that he's throwing. It's the only driver that he has packed along. I happen to notice this is a passion that I've seen here from Pichette. He throws it a number of times, and the one thing that I've noticed is some of the lefty favorable shots, a few of his choices seem to be just a little bit too understable. That's what I've noticed in the first few holes. What I've also noticed is no more rain, not at the moment anyway, or it's a light drizzle at this point. Me on that short left side. Oh, I called that one. I didn't necessarily notice an allegiance for Pichette. I'm going to guess that right now he's unsponsored in terms of a disc manufacturer, but I have a feeling that's going to change. Scott made a solid putt from behind the basket earlier, and this one not quite on the mark. And Philo picks up the birdie. Great mid-range shot from Philo. He made that one from 25. Worried about leaving a few strokes out on the course here in the early goings. I've said it before, we're going to play this course of 11 holes. Ultimately, they're going to play it through 6 times for the 3 different rounds. So it's an 11-hole course. They'll play it twice in a day as a 22-hole round. And that's what they'll do Friday, Saturday, and Sunday afternoons out here on the island of Samui. We're in Mae Nam, which is the northern section of Koh Samui. The other disc golf course that exists on this island is on the south side. We head over to 17. If you've got a forehand, this definitely seems like the play. Philo didn't get the ground play in the previous go-around, but this time looks like it checks up perfectly for him. Stokely. Hits early. He struggled here during the first go-around, but then comes inside again and is going to have a long look at best. This does feel like a shot that sets up really well for him. It does for Pichette. Early, but somehow fights through. That might still give him a long look. Scott asked if I was ready for a layup, and I said, you shouldn't be laying this up. You should be running at it. It sounds like an easy cop-out for when you don't connect. And add it to the list. Tommy all over the basket this round. Certain calmness has come about. The rain is gone. See a couple of birdies here on 6. Thinking back to when we were here on this hole was pretty much the hardest it was coming down, around 6 and 7. Now everything's, of course, waterlogged, but much nicer conditions. Surprisingly, it didn't get instantly steamy. I thought it was going to be unbearable. Take a look off in the distance. Plenty to explore out here in Koh Samui. Big shout out to our friends at the Distinguished Doodle. You can find them online at thedistinguisheddoodle.com for all of your dog shampoo, conditioners. And they support disc golf as we watch Philo get a good kick. And that is just the right stability for Pichette, right next to the pin. And for this being 253 in terms of feet, it feels like it's a little bit longer. And maybe that's just because there's so much danger. Scott stops just short of the out of bounds. Or maybe it's because I'm used to seeing the players now going out and around. And even though that splashes down, that's going to be safe. But the OB is directly behind the basket by less than 20, 25 feet. There it is. Tommy. Just getting in there and owning it.
Oh my gosh, dude. What is up with your elbow today, dude? All of these short ones are just killing your elbow. Over and over and over.
So Philo letting us know the elbow not feeling great. I don't think that's a nagging injury or problem that I'm aware of. We're also seeing more forehands.
You want to check it? It's safe.
Yeah, so an incredible teachable moment here, which is exactly why I wanted to make sure to leave it in. Anytime you are near out of bounds, you always call at least one card mate over so that they can confirm and then they can see it. Because when you're close to an out of bounds, somebody doesn't necessarily go over there and look, something of that nature, and then all of a sudden you get to the next hole and you're doing you're doing the scores, and you call it a score, and everyone's like, what? You were safe? So you're assumed to be out of bounds unless you call someone over to verify, and that's exactly what Scott was doing. So don't take it for granted. Don't just assume they know for sure you're in bounds. Call someone over and have someone else on your card verify as to you being in bounds. Otherwise, the assumption is that you're out of bounds. So good on Scott just to double check that. Nice gentle backhand. This feels a lot like hole number, what will be hole number 21 or hole number 10. In that you really can just play this high stalling hyzer if you want to get to the pin using that. We saw Stokely, of course, go with the forehand, but that'll work out great for Philo. Scott so far back here, the spectators don't quite realize just how far away he is. And as you can see, the rain has, of course, picked back up enough to get the umbrella out. So we're going to be dealing with this throughout. Most people are waterlogged. All of their discs, everything is completely wet. And then it just can't decide if it wants to stop raining or not for any long period of time. And Pachat, nice birdie. And if you've watched coverage before, you've seen that they used to play to this basket. It was from a different tee pad, but the previous 3 holes are new since we saw coverage back in 2020 when I was last here. The basket is in the same spot, but it is coming from a different teeing area. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters. This coverage, and in fact quite a bit of coverage, comes to you guys largely based on my Patreon support, and that's the only way that I can get to some of these events and bring you the coverage that I do. So I really appreciate each and every one of you for doing that. Nice high stalling hyzer. Looks good for Tommy. We'll see if Philo can follow that. And nearly identical to his shot earlier in the round. Scott's going to go up the middle again, and this time gets through everything. We saw his birdie streak come to an end, and then in fact he took a bogey here during the morning or the earlier round. And this time, birdie. So he's even par on that one. Tommy finding his putting stroke. This is where he got hot and put together a handful of birdies during the front half. Philo from medium range also connects, no problem. Oh, we got a star frame? Doing work out here in the rain. Hole 21 Has Obi on the right side, as you saw the flags there if you're standing on the tee. No problem there. That's going to be a park job and a drop-in birdie. This also looking good because it is another park job. A little bit wider for Philo, but should be the same result. And Scott, I'm going to assume, yeah, quite unconventional, is going to go the opposite way. And he's going to come up just a bit short, but we'll still have a look. Speaking of looks, tell me in the comments what the most exotic place is that you've played disc golf. That's what I need to know. We're here in Thailand, the island of Koh Samui, and excuse me, that's redundant. Koh does mean island, so we're here on the island of Samui, otherwise known as Koh Samui. And this has been incredible. This is my third year of capturing this event. But I want to know, where is the most exotic place that you have played disc golf? It doesn't have to necessarily be warm. I think exotic often goes hand in hand with warm, but it doesn't have to be warm. You can tell me anywhere that you've been. Put that in the comments. And if you haven't been anywhere exotic or noteworthy, tell me where you'd like to go play. Like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube things. You'll then be eligible for some giveaways, and I'm going to be able to process everything through my new web store, shop.thediscgolfguy.com. Stokely, the lone man out. We head over to our 22nd hole of the round, hole number 11. Chat with the honors. And goes just deep. There's Tournament Central and Tournament Headquarters. A tent patio area that seats most of our players if they want to protect themselves from the rain. Also then an entire lawn chair table area. I don't know what the phrasing would be. Entire patio is really the better word for it. All available as Philo with the park job on the easy forehand. Stokely following it up with some trickery of his own. Another overhand. That's going to result in a birdie. Nigel Mills in the background. Your owner and operator. Him and the rest of the family. So just one tree here for Pichette to beat. And he's very perplexed. Now, I'm going to go ahead after the round when we were done. Because I knew he was a newer player, I had gone up to him because I'm seeing exactly what he's doing here. He has his foot, or whatever foot he's using, he has it directly behind his disc, which for many years was the play you had to do. You had to go dead center directly behind. Now you have a little bit of space off to the left and right, so you don't have to be on center with the back of the disc. And so right now he could have his left foot about 3 to 4 more inches to the right, to his right, which would potentially be really helpful to him. So I told him that after the round was over, and hopefully that'll help him in the future. And you see, he spent 30 seconds and then some. I don't know if anyone's going to be on him for that. He definitely exceeded the time limit in that case, but he clearly is still learning both not only the rules but strategies, being the new player that he is. Solid performance, though. He's going to card a 7 under. Philo is going to have a 12 under, and the hottest round out of all players, him, Evan, and Peter, will rejoin Scott Stokely. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys for round number 2.